following words were written by one of the members of the jury, Kapka Kassabova, and I'm happy to read them on her behalf and on behalf of all the jury members. Dear Taina Tervonen, members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen, a mass grave is not an idea, it is work. There's no room for ideas in front of this gaping hole from which the bodies must be extracted before winter sets in. Down in the giant pit, Senem is digging with the rest of the team. We're in a mortuary in northwestern Bosnia at the opening of this extraordinary book, Les Fossoyeurs, by the writer, documentary filmmaker, and Franco-Finnish journalist Taina Tervonen, to whom we are pleased to present today the Jan Michalski Prize. The forensic anthropologist Semen Shkulja explains her work to the woman narrator. This is how you arrange bones. This is how you reconstruct a skull. At the feet of one painstakingly reassembled body, Senem has folded a sweater made from red wool and a pair of shoes, the leather made stiff after decades underground. It's all matter of fact because for Senem this is daily work. A Bosnian, she was 12 years old when her country descended into war in 1992. Now she heads the Center for Identification in Krajina, a region where many of those coldly executed by Serbian paramilitaries in the 1990s during the Yugoslav wars are still listed as missing. Taina Tervonen's book is the outcome of a series of visits to that place that spanned a decade. While the author was driven by an obsessive need to bear witness to people who do not know how and where their children, husbands, mothers, and uncles were killed and buried, she was above all compelled to report on the work being done by Senem and her young Serbian colleague, the investigator Damir Imamović. Both women work for the International Commission on Missing Persons, an intergovernmental organization that was founded in 1996. Daria's mission involves two roles: carrying out an investigation and serving as a psychologist, even as a therapist in the absence of any treatment for the survivors. She visits families in which one or more relatives are missing, collects information about the disappeared. Was he wearing jeans? Did he have brown eyes? He always had a smile on his face, one mother replies. And she takes blood samples for DNA testing to help identify bodies found in mass graves. And each family, each individual has their own understanding of and feelings about what Daria is doing. So negotiations and explanations must be made, cups of coffee shared, tears shed, and silences listened to. Senem and Daria work very hard patching together lives torn apart, initially by a genocidal war, and a second time by the revisionism and silence that have since been imposed. Decades later, some survivors have emigrated, others have died or have shut themselves up in an unbroken silence. The authorities are ineffectual and the rest of Europe indifferent. These two women are working in a collective vacuum while making up for the failures of the state. The war in Bosnia ended in 1995 and left some 100,000 people dead, including 30,000 disappeared. Among those, 10,000 are still being looked for in the Bosnian countryside, where paramilitaries executed large groups of people taken from their homes and transported in trucks and buses to their tragic end. One of the many complicating factors in Senem and Daria's work is that the executioners, or their henchmen in some instances, dug up the bodies and removed them elsewhere to better cover their tracks and hide their crimes, a double outrage against the victims. As the narrative unfolds, the staggering psychological and logistical complexity of the mission these two women have embraced is brought to light. Their evolving friendship, along with the friendship that connects them notably with the author, is effortlessly woven into the story. Because of Tervonen's understated tone, readers don't fully appreciate the vast psychological scope of the book until the very end, which leaves one reeling and wanting to start again for a deeper appreciation. The author's prose is imbued with compassion and insight, never falling into cliché, sentimentalism, journalese, or judgment. Each chapter relates an encounter with a person or a family, and the themed chapter titles are one of the beauties of the book. I love trees. Why did they bury them so deep? Repair the human being. The disappeared soldier. These are the words of a range of people, such as families of the disappeared and individuals assisting Senem and Daria. Each story told is a new brick of truth added to the rising edifice. The harsh yet delicate nature of Daria's and Senem's work is gradually revealed. The two women become portals to a vast human story. And through these encounters, Tervonen explores the succeeding layers of the conflict and its aftermath with the meticulousness of the archaeologist. The portraits of people in their houses, gardens, cars, dislocated by history, yet in their place, are unforgettable. The countryside is ever present, and each chapter plunges us simultaneously into the remotest corners of the human psyche and of a country now in full bloom, now shrouded in the grey winter. Nature is alive, life goes on, and joy is felt despite all. The multisensory writing ensures that this book is never bleak in tone. The blending of voices, settings, faces, perspectives, and narrative strands give Les Fossoyeurs an understated but unmistakable polyphonic quality, rare in non-fiction. This is a seamless blend of witness literature, literary reportage, psychological writing, cultural history, and travel. Tervonen occasionally reveals her presence in brief personal reflections. This balancing between narrative presence and absence is difficult to pull off, and it is one of the artistic achievements of the book. For as long as there are people doing this work, repairing what has been destroyed and trampled, our humanity will be preserved in part, Tervonen writes of Senem and Daria. But the author is one of these people too. Humbly, painstakingly, over the span of a decade, her book gathers the scattered bones of history and puts together something that is a living, breathing monument to human suffering, of course, but also to the power of warrior women. This is what Senem and Daria are in their quiet, unrelenting way. We emerge from reading this book with a new understanding of the post-war landscape in Bosnia, along with the psychology of war and its aftermath, and with a desire to get to know the faces and places of Bosnia better. However, this is not primarily a book about Bosnia or the Yugoslav wars. It is, above all, a descent into the deepest reaches of the human psyche. It shines a light on our shared suffering, our shared humanity, and the ongoing struggle with a widespread cult of war. The line that leads from Milosevic to Putin is clear. This war came out of nowhere and yet was foreseeable, Tervonen writes. War can break out anywhere, anytime. Taina Tervonen's ability to emerge in each exquisitely constructed chapter from the harrowing depths into the light before the next plunge makes reading Les Fossoyeurs not only a kind of page-turning experience, but a transformative and illuminating one too. The universality and urgency of the stories told and questions raised in Les Fossoyeurs display an uncommonly sharp clarity of vision. Its formal originality, deep humanism, and outstanding literary grace make this book a work of art that deserves a broad audience. It's our hope that awarding the Jan Michalski Prize for Literature to Les Fossoyeurs will contribute to that end. Merci.
There are many things Bosnians can do without, justice unfortunately being one of them, but coffee, no. And there's even a song about it. Kafu mi draga ispeci, baš kao da je draga dušo za tebe.
Treba, jer ti sada drugu dragu miluješ. Aj, ti si rekao da si bolju dragu stekao od mene. Ti si rekao da si bolju dragu stekao od mene.
Merci. Now, for this one, I have to take my jacket off. No particular reason. And the next song is called Da sam ptica, or If I Were a Bird. And it was written by the famous Serbian accordion player who was living in Sarajevo back in 50s and 60s and was one of the most important authors of the era in this music. There are more stories about it, but I'll tell you that over the cocktail. But that's the book that Mohammed is singing. They were singing in the book. Apparently my version, I was really flattered. Thank you.
žena vesela i mila. Moja pjesma nek te uvijek krasi. Zdravo Bosno uvijek, zdravo